4:52 a.m. The air conditioner hums softly. The clock ticks dry and steady. Tick, tick, tick. Elena Morgan opens her eyes in the airport hotel at Chicago O'Hare. The air smells of disinfectant, sharp and metallic. Her throat tastes of iron. Her phone screen glows. Mom passed away 3 days ago. No emoji, no exclamation point. Elena thinks don't open it. Meeting at 7. Sign the merger. Fly to Tokyo. Move. Coffee drips in the background, each drop landing like a period at the end of a sentence. She throws on her blazer, grabs the folder still warm from the printer, 812 names. Each name a breath about to be erased. The elevator groans. The lobby explodes with the noise of morning wheels of luggage, the spin of glass doors, a woman's voice over the loudspeaker, "Attention, please." She joins the crowd heels, clicking like a metronome on tile. Somewhere above the terminal, the big clock gives a tiny metallic click, each minute a string being plucked. Elena thinks gate C13. Boarding at 5:38. Everything according to plan. At the coffee kiosk, roasted beans bloom in the air. She orders, grabs the cup, 2 hot turns, and collides with someone. The lid bursts open. Coffee spills, steam rises bitter and sweet, mixing with the clean scent of mint floor detergent. "Sorry," she mutters, dabbing her sleeve. The man she hit bends down, broad shoulders, steady hands, late 50s maybe. His badge reads Raymond. He wipes the mess, the cloth sliding with a gentle swish. "It's fine," he says, voice low, rough from the night shift. "Everyone's in a hurry somewhere." On his cart, bottles clink faintly. "Gate C13, she asks. He nods toward the hall. Straight down left after the vending machine. The speaker chimes, ding. Final boarding call for flight to Tokyo Gate C13. People surge forward. Wheels squeal. Somewhere, a child cries briefly. Then Raymond says quietly, almost to himself, "If this flight takes you away from who you were meant to be, is it really the one you should catch?" The words drop into Elena's chest like a pebble into a full glass. Silence spreads wider than the noise around them. The big clock ticks, once tick. Elena thinks ridiculous. Go. Don't let a janitor derail your plan. She takes a step, but her feet don't move. The mint air cuts through the coffee steam. A memory flashes her mother tapping a rhythm on the piano lid. Tap, 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 as she practiced a clumsy sonatina. Music is for living, her mother used to say, not for proving. Elena turns back. What did you just say? Raymond shrugs, wrings out his mop. Water drips into the bucket, plop, 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 like indoor rain. Just talking to myself. Long nights do that. You don't even know who I am, she says. I don't need to, he replies. I can hear it in your steps. What do they say? You're tired, he says. And angry. The speaker repeats, final call. Elena looks up. The clock's hand moves. She could still run. She always runs. 15 years, never missed a flight, never missed a decision. Elena thinks, who am I if I don't board? If I don't sign Mom, I didn't even go home. You'll miss your flight, Raymond says. I know. Her voice is calm, almost tender. Because of something I said? No, she whispers. Because of the clock. I can't stand its ticking anymore. A small photo dangles from his cart and hits the metal bar, clink. The crowd swells and hides him for a moment. When it thins, he's already pushing the cart away. The wheels squeak pause, then roll again. The door at C13 hisses shut somewhere behind her, clean final. Elena slides the boarding pass into her pocket. The paper crinkles like an old letter folded for the last time. Her phone buzzes. A text from her aunt, your mom's at peace. Come home or don't. Just listen to your heart. Elena inhales slowly, lungs expanding like a window unsticking after years. Elena thinks first missed flight in 15 years, and I'm still standing. She looks up at the terminal clock. Tick, tick, Each beat lands softly against her palm like a coin dropped in water. The smell of burnt coffee lingers. The mint scent cools her wrist. She turns toward the maintenance corridor, following that scent without knowing why. Elena thinks, who is he and why did a stranger's words find their way inside me? Down the hallway, the sound returns, clink, clink, that small photo brushing metal. She glances back, no one there. Only the faint wet trail of mop wheels leading toward the clock. Her phone buzzes again. A new voicemail, unknown number. A man's voice, rough but familiar. Don't forget. C-13 is closed. Then silence. Elena thinks who wanted me on that flight or who didn't want me to leave. She stops under the giant clock. The minute hand clicks forward. Somewhere inside her memory, the sonatina's first note does the same. Elena presses a hand to her chest, heartbeat syncing with the ticking. She lets the question linger unanswered. She looks up and walks the other way. Not toward C-13, but toward the faint jingling sound still floating in the air. The PA shifts tone, announcing another flight. Life at the airport moves on perfectly indifferent. Elena grips her bag strap, hears the soft rasp of fabric against her fingers, small but real. A thin smile touches her lips, this time with warmth. Elena thinks if I'm wrong today, at least I'm wrong with my heart, and she walks. The airport is never truly quiet. Even in daylight's first wash, there's a low hum, rolling wheels, distant boarding calls, cups, clinking lives overlapping for seconds before scattering again. Elena sits by the window of a coffee shop that faces the runway. The glass trembles each time a jet growls upward, leaving behind a shiver of sound. She wraps her fingers around the warm paper cup, though the coffee has long gone cold. Elena thinks I could have been on that plane. I was supposed to be halfway across the Pacific by now. Instead, I'm here. Waiting for what? The clock above the counter ticks faintly. Not as sharp as the one in the terminal, but close enough to make her stomach tighten. She glances up every few seconds as if it might speak. From her seat, she can see him. Raymond, the janitor. He's kneeling by a spill near the gate. Someone dropped a soda. The mop moves in slow, even arcs. His movements are deliberate, quiet. He never rushes. A security guard jokes with him. He smiles politely but doesn't reply. Then he leans the mop against the cart and takes a moment, just a breath, to look out the window. For an instant, Elena sees it, a kind of stillness that doesn't belong in an airport, like he's the only person not trying to go anywhere. Elena thinks, who does that? Who stops moving in a place built for leaving? She catches herself staring. The guard follows her gaze and grins. You mean Ray Knight, janitor. Works the late shifts. Quiet guy. Kind, though. Never complains. Guess he likes it here. Likes it here, Elena repeats, almost laughing. In an airport, yeah, the guard shrugs. Some people just clean up other people's hurry. The sentence lingers longer than it should. She leaves a tip on the counter, stands, and heads for the exit. Her heels echo off the tile-sharp, confident sounds she once found comforting. Now they feel like a lie she keeps telling herself. Outside, the cool morning air tastes faintly of jet fuel and burnt toast. She walks toward the hotel shuttle, but her reflection in the glass doors stops her. Hair too neat. Expression too practiced. She doesn't look like a woman who missed a flight. She looks like someone who's been missing her own life. Elena thinks meant to be. What did he mean by that? Meant to be, what, a CEO with an empty phone? A daughter who didn't go home. Her phone vibrates again, email stacking like waves. She turns it off. For the first time in years, she chooses silence. Back in her hotel room, the hum of airplanes filters through the window. The same rhythmic sound she's heard for decades, but tonight it feels heavier, like time itself moving without her. The mirror catches her face in the lamplight, poised, professional, unreadable. But her eyes, they look tired. The kind of tired no sleep fixes. Elena thinks you're being ridiculous. It was just a stranger. A janitor with a poetic mouth. Get over it. But she can't, because his words weren't poetic. They were true. She hears them again. If this flight takes you away from who you were meant to be, each syllable replaying in her mind with the rhythm of that terminal clock. Her stomach twists. She opens the minibar, pours a small whiskey, and sets it on the desk beside her laptop. Emails glow in rows, deadlines, contracts. Her mother's obituary sits unread in another tab. She presses play on a voicemail, the one she ignored yesterday. It's her aunt's voice, soft, a little raspy from crying. "Elena, the service is tomorrow. No one blames you. I just thought you'd want to know what flowers she liked last." A sound escapes her, a half laugh, half sob. "I don't even know anymore," she whispers. The hotel clock ticks. Somewhere outside, a plane takes off. Another life departing. She turns off the light. The room darkens, but the sound remains the soft hum, the ticking, the distant roar of an engine fading into sky. Elena thinks maybe tomorrow. I'll go back tomorrow. Next morning, she's early at the terminal. Too early. She tells herself it's to change her ticket, but her heart knows better. The same clock, the same bench, the same faint mint scent on the floor. She finds him near the staff lounge rolling the mop cart through a side hallway. When he looks up, their eyes meet for a fraction of a second. He nods politely, nothing more. "Morning," she says. "Morning. You always work this shift?" "Always." He doesn't stop moving. She starts, then stops. She's not even sure what she wants to say. "About yesterday." He glances at her. "You missed your flight." "Yes." He shrugs lightly. "And maybe you were supposed to." His tone isn't kind nor dismissive, just matter-of-fact, like gravity. She watches him wring out the mop, the sound of water dripping into the bucket steady as rain. Elena thinks, how can someone make silence sound like wisdom? Raymond notices her staring. "Something else you needed?" "No," she says. "Just, thanks." "For what?" "For saying something I didn't want to hear." He smirks. "Didn't plan to. I just talk too much when I'm tired. You don't seem like someone who talks too much." "I'm learning," he says. "Sometimes silence says it better." He starts walking again. The bucket wheels squeak faintly. She turns to leave, but his voice stops her. "Miss Morgan." She looks back. "Yes." He nods toward her coffee cup. "It's dripping. You'll stain the floor." She glances down. He's right. Coffee trails behind her in small, uneven dots. She laughs under her breath, embarrassed. "Guess I owe you another mess to clean up." He shakes his head. "Nah. Happens to everyone, rushing nowhere." Then he disappears behind the staff door, leaving only the faint swoosh of the mop echoing down the hall. Elena stands there longer than she should. The smell of mint. The steady ticking from the clock above. The hollow quiet between departures. Elena thinks maybe this isn't about missing a flight. Maybe it's about finally hearing my own silence. And as she walks away, she realizes for the first time in years her steps don't sound like they're running. The morning air inside the terminal feels heavier than it should. Not cold, not warm, just thick, filled with a strange hum that seems to live inside Elena's ribs. She's back, for the third day in a row. Elena thinks I told myself I came to change my flight, but I didn't even bring my passport this time. She walks past the cafe, the smell of roasted beans chasing her like a familiar ghost. The big clock above gate C13 ticks steadily, and each click feels like a breath she can't quite take. Down the corridor she spots him again, Raymond pushing his cart, wiping the same tiles he probably wiped 100 times before. Same rhythm, same slow precision, like he's polishing the world 1 square foot at a time. She hesitates, then takes a step toward him. Her heels echo across the floor. He glances up. "You again." "Me again," she answers. He stops. "Don't tell me you missed another flight. I haven't booked one." He studies her for a second. That's worse. His tone isn't mocking, just dry factual, like he's describing the weather. She exhales, forcing a smile. Do you ever take a day off? He dips the mop, wrings it out. The sound of water dripping into the bucket is steady, almost meditative. If I did, who'd keep this place from falling apart? The airport wouldn't crumble without you. You sure, he asks without looking at her. I've seen what happens when floors aren't cleaned. People slip. Bones break. Sometimes all it takes is one spill. She chuckles. That's dramatic. He grins faintly. Maybe. But truth usually sounds dramatic when people don't want to hear it. She watches him work. His movements have a strange grace, like someone dancing with invisible music. The smell of mint and detergent fills the air between them. Elena thinks, why do I feel like I'm the one being scrubbed clean here? Do you ever get tired of this? She asks. The same halls, the same noise, the same faces passing by. He leans on the handle of the mop. Depends. Some people spend their lives traveling, and somehow they're the ones who never move. She tilts her head. You talk like a philosopher. He laughs, short, rough, but real. Don't start. I'm just an old janitor with too much time to think and not enough people to listen. Silence settles between them. The clock above ticks again. The sound slices through the air like a heartbeat. Elena thinks he keeps saying things that sound simple, but they don't feel simple. Finally, she says, I cut 800 people from my company this week. 800. I didn't even blink. He doesn't react right away. He just rinses the mop again, water swirling like a quiet storm. So why tell me? Because you don't know me, she says softly. You don't have to forgive me. Raymond looks up, eyes steady, quiet. You think forgiveness is something people owe you. She swallows hard. No. I think I just don't know what I owe myself anymore. For a long moment, neither of them speaks. Only the airport hums the distant rolling of carts, a child laughing somewhere, the metallic ding of the PA system announcing another boarding. Then Raymond breaks the silence. I've been doing this job longer than I remember, cleaning after people who don't see me, but I figured something out. He pauses, adjusts the mop. A clean floor isn't for show. It's not about shine. It's so someone else doesn't fall. He chuckles, shakes his head. Damn, that sounds way too poetic when I say it out loud. Elena laughs, a real laugh this time, surprised at the warmth in it. You sound like one of those old men in stories, the wise ones who show up just when the hero's lost. He smirks. Trust me, I'm no wise man, just someone who's made enough mistakes to recognize one when it's walking toward me. Elena thinks he's not wrong. I've been walking in circles pretending it's a straight line. A gate announcement interrupts them. Flight to Dallas now boarding at gate B12. She watches the travelers hurry by, the swirl of footsteps voices the urgency of people who believe they know where they're going. I should go, she says quietly. Go where? She opens her mouth, but no words come. She doesn't know. Raymond nods toward the clock above them. Then stay. Until you do. He turns back to his mop, his rhythm unbroken, but his last words stay suspended in the air, heavier than they should be. Elena thinks stay. That's not something I'm good at. As she walks away, she catches her reflection in the polished tiles, distorted, a little warped, but somehow softer than before. Behind her, the mop slides once more, and Raymond hums something under his breath. A low tune, maybe a lullaby, maybe nothing at all. The sound follows her down the corridor like a quiet promise. Elena thinks, maybe he's right. Maybe movement isn't the same as living. She stops for a heartbeat, looking back toward the clock. The ticking seems louder now, like it's keeping time not for flights but for choices. And as she steps into the crowd, she realizes for the first time she isn't running late. She's just waiting to arrive somewhere real. The terminal looks the same, yet something in the air feels different. Maybe it's quieter. Or maybe Elena's finally hearing what silence actually sounds like. Soft shoes, scuffing tiles, the rustle of paper cups, a faint melody leaking from someone's earbuds 2 gates away. Elena thinks I told myself I'd stop coming back. But here I am again. Maybe I just need to know who this man really is. She walks down the maintenance corridor. The floor smells faintly of lemon and metal clean sharp, too real to ignore. Raymond's cart stands parked near the vending machines, a silent outpost among forgotten gates. He's there, crouched by a supply closet, fixing the squeak on one of the mop buckets. His sleeves are rolled up, hands, steady veins, visible like a map of old labor. Is this becoming a habit, he says without looking up. Maybe she admits, or maybe I'm just not used to silence anymore. He chuckles under his breath. Silence can be loud when you've been avoiding it. Elena leans against the wall. You sound like someone who's had practice. I've had years of night shifts, he replies. Silence is cheaper than therapy. His cart jingles slightly as he moves a rag, and that's when she sees it, a small photo hanging from the metal bar. A young girl, 10, maybe 11. Hair pulled back loosely, eyes too calm for her age. The picture's edges are worn, laminated tape peeling away. Elena points at it. Your daughter Raymond stills for a moment, then nods. Sophie. She's beautiful. She's different, he says softly. She has Asperger's. Doesn't like people much. Music, though that's her world. He glances at the photo again, his voice lowering into something between pride and ache. She plays piano. Not the kind of piano you hear in fancy hotels. Hers sounds like she's talking to someone only she can hear. Elena smiles faintly. I used to play. A long time ago. He looks up. Used to life happened. Deadlines, deals, people who think music is just noise between meetings. Raymond studies her. You stopped because you got busy or because you got scared. She opens her mouth, then closes it. He's sharper than he looks. Maybe both, she says finally. He gives a small nod like he understands more than he lets on. Sophie's mom used to say the same thing. She quit painting when the bills came. Told me one day she'd pick it up again. But one day turned into never. There's no bitterness in his tone, just the dull honesty of someone who's already lived through it. Elena shifts closer, her voice gentler now. Do you still see her? He shakes his head. She passed. Cancer. Sophie was 5. Silence stretches between them, long and fragile. Only the distant sound of luggage wheels breaks it like rain on far pavement. Elena thinks he carries this pain so quietly. No anger, no self-pity, just acceptance. She gestures toward the coffee machine nearby. Can I buy you a cup? You know, as a thank you for letting me loiter in your hallway all week. Raymond huffs a small laugh. Generous offer. So, he turns the corners of his mouth curving just slightly. Tell you what, when you're not a CEO anymore, I'll take that coffee. She blinks. Excuse me. When you're not playing the part, he says, eyes meeting hers for the first time that morning. When you stop being someone who signs lives away for breakfast meetings. When you're just you. Then we'll have a real conversation. Elena swallows hard. And what if I never stop being that person? Then I guess we'll keep walking past each other, he says quietly. Some people don't want to be seen. They just want to be admired from far enough away that no one notices the cracks. Elena thinks cracks, if he only knew how many I have. He lifts the bucket, tests the wheel. It rolls smoothly now. There. Fixed. She forces a smile. Guess you fix more than floors, huh? He shakes his head. Floors don't talk back. Her laugh escapes low and real before she can stop it. It echoes softly down the corridor landing somewhere between them. For a moment it feels almost normal. 2 people, not CEO and janitor, just people. A boarding call interrupts Flight 218 to Boston, now boarding. The echo fades, and with it, something inside her tightens again. I should go, she says. You always should, he replies. Doesn't mean you always will. As she walks away, she glances over her shoulder. Raymond's back at work, humming quietly. The photo of Sophie swings gently from his cart, catching the light each time he moves. The sound of the mop gliding over tile follows her until it blends with the ticking of the clock above steady patient, unhurried. Elena thinks maybe that's what I envy most, the way he moves through pain like it's part of breathing. At the end of the hall, she pauses, turning one last time. Raymond. He looks up. She smiles faintly. I hope she keeps playing. He nods. I hope you do too. The words land quietly like a small door closing behind her. And for the first time since her mother died, Elena feels the faintest tug not of grief, but of longing. A reminder that somewhere beneath all the noise, music still waits for her. Night folds around the penthouse like thick velvet. No skyline glow, just the hush of a city holding its breath. The radiator sighs. The fridge hums a single patient note. Somewhere below, a siren rises, then surrenders to distance. Elena closes the door with a soft latch and stands in the dark, letting her ears map the room. The air tastes slightly metallic, the way dust tastes when you haven't moved it in years. She inhales the ghost of lemon oil and dried varnish, the smell of an instrument left waiting too long. Elena thinks don't turn on the lights. Find it by memory. Her shoes whisper across the rug, catch the edge of wood. A familiar creak answers the bench that always protested first. She sits. The seat gives a breathy groan, the felt inside releasing a faint powder scent that reminds her of afternoons she used to steal from homework. Her fingers hover. The keys are cool and slightly gritty, as if they remember other hands better than hers. Elena thinks I can still do this. 3 notes at least. She presses middle C. The note blooms fragile at first, then whole. A soft resonance returns from the open room, gathering itself and settling around her like a shawl. Silence after. And in that silence, she hears it, the same dry, relentless counting she's been running from all week. The terminal clock now living inside the apartment walls. Tick, tick. No, not the walls. She reaches into the bench and finds a wooden metronome, triangular, old as her teenage summers. She winds it. The pendulum swings, clicking time. The sound is almost identical to the airport. Elena thinks, there you are. Speak gently. She places her right hand where her muscles remember home, G-E-C. The opening of that Clementi sonatina she once hated, then loved, then forgot. The first triplet stumbles. Her left hand joins too early. The pedal sticks for a heartbeat before it releases with a soft thup. Elena thinks, keep going. Mom never stopped me for wrong notes, only for stopping. Her mother's knuckles tap the memory of the lid, tap, 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 a patient rhythm. Music is for living, not for proving the remembered voice murmurs. Elena tries again. The metronome holds her hand like a nurse guiding a fragile step. She plays the phrase slowly, like tasting an old recipe she used to rush. The harmonies arrive shy but recognizable. She misses a sharp. She doesn't apologize to the air. A draft slips under the window, cool against her wrist. It lifts a thin layer of dust from the fallboard. The dust makes a dry whisper when it settles back like paper agreeing with itself. She reaches the section that always made her feel like she was running downstairs too fast. This time, she leans into it. The bench complains. She laughs a breath, not a sound, and the laugh warms the note that follows. Elena thinks 15 years without this, and my hands still know who I was. Her phone face down on the piano top lights without ringing. A new email. She ignores it. The blue notification fades like an impatient guest leaving. She begins again at the top. Right hand alone. Left hand gently after softer than she thinks it should be. Her shoulders drop. The back of her neck warms. The apartment hum shifts, or maybe she is the one shifting to meet it. A memory unclenches a Saturday morning. Her mother humming off key while chopping apples, the smell of cinnamon and cheap coffee, Elena complaining about scales and then playing scales anyway because her mother tapped the lid in a waltz that made them feel like something other than drills. She slides to the cadence. The harmony lands. Not perfect, but incontrovertibly alive. She stops and listens to the aftersound, how it keeps unraveling for a breath longer than she expects. Elena thinks I've been starving in a kitchen full of food. She rubs her thumb and forefinger together. The fingerprints feel awake, almost tender. She realizes her jaw has unclenched. A small ache behind her eyes softens not from tears exactly, but from the absence of bracing for them. On the second run, she adds a whisper of pedal earlier than written, then lifts it a hair late. The mistake paints a blur she suddenly loves. The metronome clicks like a companion who doesn't mind being ignored when the room finds its own pulse. Elena thinks this is what the airport kept trying to tell me. Keep time. But for what matters? The phone lights again longer this time. She lets it sit. Her hands keep talking to the keys. The sonatina's middle section opens like a window onto fresher air. She lets the phrase spill, not caring about evenness. The unevenness feels human, and the human feels like oxygen. She reaches the last page in her head, a page she never performed without a flinch. Now she threads it with caution and tenderness. A few clunks, yes. But between them, a line that sounds almost like her. When the final chord fades, the apartment gives back only the hush of the fridge and the measured click of the metronome. The silence doesn't accuse. It welcomes. Elena lowers her hands to her lap and lets the tendons hum. The smell of warmed wood rises. Her skin tastes salt where she bites her lip. Elena thinks I lived 15 years proving, and not a minute of it felt like this. She flips the phone face up. Email subject lines stack urgent like soldier's board. Update merger vote moved to 9:00 a.m. Action required final signatures due by 8:00 a.m. Contingency planning. She sets the phone down as if it's hot. The metronome keeps counting. Elena thinks they want my hand before sunrise. My mother is buried tomorrow. I left her to answer clocks. She opens the bench. Inside, a pencil, a brittle packet of strings, a folded index card. She recognizes her mother's handwriting, slanted, impatient. On the card, when you forget the melody, start with the rhythm of your breathing. On the back, fainter. Don't rush the goodbye. Her throat tightens. She rests the card on the music stand and presses record on her phone's voice memos. Clementi's slow, she whispers and begins again. This time she plays the main theme once and then, without thinking, shifts it. She moves a note, then another, letting the melody lean toward a minor hue for a bar before it returns home. It's not the sonatina anymore. It's a bridge to something unnamed. Elena thinks not for an audience, for the part of me that stayed. Halfway through, a tear threatens. She breathes through her nose, steady, keeping the tempo with the metronome for 4 measures and then ignoring it for 3. The clicking becomes a sound at the edge of a lake she's swimming in, present, but no longer the point. When she stops, she doesn't lower the lid. She leaves the keys open like a window she refuses to close in case morning wants to come in that way. The phone buzzes again, this time a text from an unknown number. She taps it open. Aunt Lila service moved earlier, 9:00 a.m. if you can make it. No pressure. Dress warm. Church is drafty. Drafty. Elena rubs her forearms. The skin is pebbled. She hadn't noticed she was cold. She stands to fetch a sweater but sits back down instead. The bench answers with its old complaint. She finds the sound oddly reassuring. Elena thinks 8:00 a.m. signatures. 9:00 a.m. Goodbye. Same clock, 2 worlds. She presses her palms into the keys, gently, no notes, just to feel their resistance. Then she says it out loud, barely above a whisper, as if the room needs to hear it before she does. I'm not signing. The sentence makes a small, clean space in the air. The metronome clicks into it as if agreeing. And then a second sound. A new voicemail lands. The preview banner flashes only one line. Unknown caller, Z2004, 4 seconds. She taps, play. Static. A breath. A faint scrape like a chair leg on tile. And what might be a piano very far away touching the same opening, 3 notes she just played. The message ends. The metronome keeps ticking. Elena thinks that can't be real. Or what if it is? She reaches for her coat with hands that don't feel cold anymore. Morning seeps into Chicago like gray water. The light outside Elena's window is thin, washed, indifferent. The kind of morning that forgets it's supposed to be new. She hasn't slept. The piano lid is still open, the metronome still ticking in its steady, merciless rhythm. The voicemail, the one with the faint piano notes, plays on loop in her mind. 4 seconds, 3 notes. The same sonatina she'd played last night. Elena thinks coincidence. Of course. But why does it feel like something or someone heard me? She grabs her coat and keys before her courage can evaporate. The airport hum greets her like an old refrain. It's quieter in the mornings when travelers move like ghosts, half awake, half gone already. She follows the familiar scent of mint cleaner through the corridors until she reaches the staff lounge. Empty. She waits, pacing, listening to the faraway roll of a mop bucket. But no Raymond. Only the clock above her ticking too loud. Elena thinks maybe he switched shifts. Maybe he's avoiding me. She spots a maintenance worker coming through the double doors, yawning into his sleeve. "Excuse me," she says. "Raymond, the janitor who works nights. Is he here?" The man shakes his head. "Nah. He collapsed last night, end of shift. Heart thing, maybe. They sent him home." Elena's stomach drops. He's all right, didn't say. HR took his badge to file medical leave. Poor guy. She swallows the knot in her throat. Do you know where he lives?" The man frowns. "Company policy, ma'am." She hesitates, then lowers her voice. "Please, it's important." He studies her business coat pearl earrings eyes that look like they haven't rested in years. Finally, he sighs and scribbles an address on a napkin. "Don't tell anyone where you got it." "I won't." The cab ride feels longer than it is. Rain threatens but never commits, just smudging the windshield with thin mist. The city's rhythm changes as they leave downtown buildings, sagging, streets narrowing. The driver hums along to an old song on the radio. Time keeps on slipping into the future. Elena stares out the window. The lyrics scrape against her chest like truth she didn't ask for. The cab stops in front of a low, aging apartment complex, paint-peeling balconies half rusted. The kind of place you'd miss if you weren't looking. She climbs the stairs, each one creaking as if complaining about the effort. Apartment 3B. The door's paint is flaking around the edges. She knocks. No answer. She's about to leave when she hears a faint sound behind the door. A piano. The same sonatina, halting uneven but alive. Elena thinks it can't be. She knocks again, softer. The music stops. Then footsteps light careful. The door opens a few inches. A girl stands there. 10 maybe. Brown hair, wide eyes that look past Elena more than at her. "Hi," Elena says gently. "I'm a friend of your father's." The girl tilts her head. No reply. "I'm Elena." The girl turns and walks back inside, leaving the door open. Elena hesitates, then follows. The apartment smells of coffee and soap and something faintly metallic like old strings. A small, upright piano sits by the window, its lid chipped at the corner. The same melody starts again. The girl's hands are small, but sure pressing into the same keys Elena touched last night. Elena's breath catches. Elena thinks this isn't magic, it's connection. But how? The final chord lands soft and trembling. The girl lifts her hands and looks at her. Elena kneels beside her. "That piece, you play it beautifully." The girl doesn't answer, just studies her face like she's trying to recognize something she can't name. Then she reaches out and touches Elena's hand, guiding it to the keys. Her palm is warm. Her grip is firm. They sit there, 2 strangers, 4 hands hovering over middle C. The front door opens. Raymond's voice fills the small space, rough, breathless. "Sophie, what are you?" He stops, cold. His gaze lands on Elena. The silence that follows isn't ordinary. It hums. "What are you doing here?" His tone is sharp defensive. The calm she once admired now cracked open. I heard you'd collapsed. I just wanted to make sure you were okay. He exhales through his nose. You found me anyway. Of course you did. I didn't mean to intrude. You did, he snaps. Then softer. You don't have to fix this, Elena. Not everything broken wants your kind of help. She flinches. My kind of help. The kind that writes checks, sends flowers, disappears. The kind that makes people like me feel like projects. She shakes her head. That's not what this is. Then his voice rises not loud, but heavy. You think walking into my home, into my daughter's quiet, makes the guilt stop echoing in yours. She opens her mouth, but the words falter. She can't tell if the sting in her chest is shame or grief. Behind him, Sophie watches still by the piano, her small fingers tracing the air above the keys like she's measuring the space between sound and silence. Raymond's voice drops raw now. I've kept her world small on purpose. Safe. She doesn't need the noise of yours. Elena swallows hard. She played my song, she says quietly. The same one I played last night. That's not your song. His voice cracks. It's the same old sonatina she's obsessed with. She plays it every night before bed. The room feels smaller, the air too thick. I didn't mean to. Please, he interrupts, rubbing a hand over his face. Just go. She hesitates, wanting to say something that won't sound like an apology, but everything does. Elena thinks he's right. I don't know what I'm doing here. I just couldn't stay away. She turns toward the door. Her hand trembles as she reaches for the knob. Then a sound. A single note. Middle C. Sophie has pressed it. Elena turns. The girl meets her eyes for the first time and places Elena's hand back on the piano. Then hers on top. No words, just that small, deliberate act. Raymond stands frozen jaw tight, torn between anger and something else. He steps forward, then stops. The sonatina begins again, hesitant, shared. The two of them play the girl leading, Elena following. The melody fills the small apartment, fragile and impossibly alive. Raymond's eyes soften just for a breath before he looks away. He mutters almost to himself, She doesn't do that with anyone. Elena looks down at Sophie, who keeps playing, utterly focused. Elena thinks maybe silence isn't punishment. Maybe it's an invitation. When the piece ends, the girl closes the lid, gently rests her hand on it for a beat, and then slips away into another room. Raymond doesn't look at Elena. His voice when it comes is low, tired. You should go. Elena nods. I will. She walks to the door. The floor creaks under her heels. Before leaving, she turns once more. For what it's worth, she says softly. I wasn't trying to fix anything. He doesn't answer. Outside, the hallway smells faintly of dust and detergent. The door closes behind her with a click that feels too final. She exhales the sound, small, shaky. Somewhere inside the apartment, a faint echo of the sonatina drifts through the thin wall, played slower now, like someone trying not to cry. Elena thinks, maybe silence is what happens when two hearts finally hear each other and don't know what to say. She pulls her coat tighter and walks down the stairs, her footsteps syncing with the rhythm of rain beginning to fall. The boardroom breathes in machinery. HVS, rushing like an anxious tide, the projector fan, whirring the faint tick of a wall clock that's 2 minutes fast. The city outside is a distant hiss under triple-pane glass. Papers whisper, pens click. The table smells faintly of lemon oil and old coffee. Elena thinks signatures at 8 Huarliro. Service at 9 Huarliro. Same clock, 2 worlds. Her folder lands on the table with a soft thock. 812 names, account numbers, departments, severance columns arranged like teeth. Someone slides a carafe. The lid rattles against the metal rim, an off-key symbol. Good morning, says Chairwoman Whitaker. Her voice is smooth buttered steel. We'll be efficient today. General Counsel Anders clears his throat. Paper crinkles. Merger agreement revised. Minor changes. We need your initials on each page and your signature on page 42. Closing funds wire at 9. CFO Malik drums 2 fingers, restless eighth notes. Credit lines tighten next quarter. This buys runway and removes non-essential headcount. Elena thinks non-essential, as if breath were a luxury item. Whitaker leans forward. The faint scent of eucalyptus drifts from her hand lotion. You'll be heralded as decisive Elena. In volatile markets, certainty is compassion. Compassion, Elena repeats softly like testing a word in a foreign language. On the screen, a slide deck. Synergy schedule. Redundancy. Capture. Integration timeline. Bullet points march in perfect formation. Somewhere in the vents, a metallic tick answers the wall clock almost like a metronome remembering its job. Her pen feels heavy. The cap clicks snap and becomes a small gunshot in the quiet. Anders taps the signature flag with a manicured nail. Page 42. She flips pages. The paper smells of toner and heat. Names stare up. She doesn't read them. She hears them the hum under fluorescent lights, the thud of boxes when security waits, the soft apology from HR that never feels soft. A cleaning cart's faint jingle ghosts her ear mint and soap threading into eucalyptus. Elena thinks I can sign. I've done worse. I can also breathe. Pick one. Malik's chair squeaks. Market opens in 50 minutes. Whitaker smiles like a photograph. You're not alone in this. Leadership demands distance. We hire you to make the unsentimental call. Elena's thumb rubs the pen clip until it warms. Something loosens behind her ribs the place music lived last night. She can still taste the dust and lemon oil from the piano, still feel the echo of those 3 stubborn notes. She turns one more page and it happens. Sophie's small hand warm and firm, guiding hers to middle C. Raymond's voice gravel wrapped in care. A clean floor isn't for shine. It's so someone else doesn't fall. She looks at the spreadsheet again. Not numbers spills. Slippery, invisible. People will go down hard. Elena thinks if I sign, I am the spill. Whitaker's tone gentles rehearsed empathy. I know this week has been personal. The board appreciates your composure. Anders slides a fountain pen across the table as if offering absolution. We can countersign in under a minute. It will be painless. Elena hears the word differently painless for whom the wall clock clicks. The projector fan answers. AC exhales. She places the pen's tip on page 42. It kisses the line with a dry whisper. Her hand doesn't move. Anders clears his throat again. Elena Malik time. Whitaker. We are aligned. Yes, the pen leaves the page. Tiny paper fibers cling then release with a hiss. No, Elena says. The HVAC fills the pause, surprised. Whitaker blinks once a doorway opening onto a colder room. I'm sorry, I'm not signing. Elena's voice is steady, almost quiet enough to hide in. We can renegotiate terms that don't liquidate people like office plants. Or we walk. Malik's chair bites the floor. You can't be serious. Anders folds his hands. His cufflinks click little ice cubes. Our fiduciary duty to whom Elena asks. To a chart, or to the lives under it. Silence. Then Whitaker sits back. The eucalyptus sharpens. Elena, she says each syllable placed like a chess piece if you refuse to execute the board will move to replace you. Today. Elena thinks, there it is. The price tag. She exhales. The breath tastes metallic like the morning she woke in the hotel with disinfectant in her lungs. Then replace me. Be reasonable. Anders tries a softer key. We can structure transitional optics. Spare reputational damage. Damage to whom Malik's voice cracks on frustration. You walk now lenders panic covenants trip. We trigger layoffs anyway, worse ones, and you don't control any of it. Elena's hand goes to her bag, finding the small metronome card with her mother's handwriting. Don't rush the goodbye. The wall clock ticks, tick, tick, like it's learning the line. Elena thinks goodbye then. not to them, to the person who answered clocks before people. She closes the folder. The sound is decisive, but not cruel. I'll brief staff, she says. I'll own my choice. You can own yours. Whitaker studies her a long moment, seeing past the blazer maybe for the first time. Is this about grief? It's about harm. Elena stands. The chair legs groan, startled. And about who I am when the ticking stops. No one moves. In the quiet, the city breathes. Somewhere in the building, an elevator dings soft far. Whitaker glances at Anders. Prepare interim resolutions. Malik, call the street. Anders nods, already making list sounds under his breath. Security for devices. Comms to draft. HR on standby. I'll send my phone from downstairs, Elena says. You can remote wipe it by noon. Whitaker's mouth softens by a millimeter. You understand, this is irrevocable. So are some signatures, Elena replies. She takes her folder, not the contracts, just the index card, and turns toward the door. Ms. Morgan Malik calls after her. You leave now, don't come back. She stops. Not dramatic. Just a pause a person makes when they listen to themselves. Elena thinks, stay until you know where you're going, he said. I know enough. She opens the door. The hallway hits her with colder air and the elevator's bell again, closer now. Footsteps. Phone voices. The real percussion of life. Down the corridor, her assistant, Kira, waits by the reception desk, breath fast enough to hear. Elena, are you okay? They asked me to. She swallows. I can pack your office. Elena touches Kira's forearm, warm shaking. Only take the plants. The fern gets the window. Tell facilities to water whoever stays. Kira barks an involuntary laugh that breaks into a sob. What do I tell the team? Tell them. Elena searches for a word that isn't a performance. Tell them to take lunch today. Outside. Tell them to breathe. Kira nods, crying openly now. Where will you go, home? Elena says, then catches the word and lets it become bigger, and then where I'm supposed to be. The elevator doors sigh open. Inside, brushed metal, the faint echo of shoe scuffs, a whisper of some earlier conversation contained and erased. She steps in. The doors begin to close. Her phone buzzes, in her palm, unknown number. A voicemail lands Jiwadaruchu AO7 this time. 7 seconds. She doesn't press play. Not yet. The doors pause on their sensors, then meet. In the moving box, cables hum. Floors count down in soft, digital beeps. Elena hears her heart find the beat between them. Not the clock's. Hers. She presses the voicemail to her ear. A breath. A scrape of a chair leg on tile. Then, faint, careful certain, a melody that isn't the sonatina anymore. It leans toward minor, then finds its way back like someone writing to her in notes instead of words. Elena thinks that's his, or ours. The elevator dings at the lobby. When the doors slide open, a gust of street air rushes in, wet, metallic, alive. She steps forward, and a voice, Whitaker's, filtered through the ceiling speaker, formal and cold, fills the elevator bay. Attention, staff. Effective immediately, Elena Morgan is no longer serving as Chief Executive Officer. The announcement cuts. The lobby returns to its normal hum. Somewhere outside, a siren starts low. Elena pockets her phone thumb, still warm from the melody. Elena thinks, if I'm no one's CEO, then I'm free to be someone's something. She reaches for the building's glass door. It's heavier than she remembers. Rain drizzles against the glass, making the city look like it's been sketched in watercolor. Every sound seems closer after you've walked away from a life that made too much noise. Elena stands outside the small apartment building, coat, damp hand hovering before she knocks. The hallway smells faintly of coffee and something like cinnamon, or maybe just the memory of it. Elena thinks he won't want to see me, but I have to try. She knocks, once, then twice. No answer. Just when she's about to turn away, the latch clicks. The door opens a fraction. Raymond stands there, gray sweater, unshaven eyes red at the edges. "Didn't expect the CEO to make house calls," he says quietly. "I'm not a CEO anymore." His brow lifts, but he doesn't step aside. "Congratulations or condolences?" Neither, she answers. Just consequence. He studies her a moment longer, then exhales and opens the door wider. "You better come in before the neighbors think I'm auditioning for a soap opera." She steps inside. The air smells of soap tea and rain-soaked clothes. Sophie sits cross-legged on the carpet sorting puzzle pieces by color. The piano is open, a few notes smudged on the sheet music like fingerprints. "Hi, Sophie," Elena says softly. The girl glances up briefly, nods once, then returns to her puzzle, quiet but not unfriendly. Raymond gestures toward a chair. "Tea." "It's what I've got." Tea's perfect. He disappears into the small kitchen. The kettle hums, building a thin whistle. She looks around, books stacked on the floor, an old photo on the counter. His wife may be smiling in the filtered sunlight of another decade. He returns with 2 mismatched mugs. Steam curls between them. For a while, neither speaks. Only the clock ticks on the wall slower than the airport one, gentler like it's learned patience. Finally, he says, "Why are you really here, Elena?" "I heard the voicemail." He frowns. "Voicemail music," she says. 7 seconds. A melody. "Yours." He shakes his head, puzzled. "I haven't called anyone." Then, Sophie interrupts with a small sound. She's holding a worn sheet of paper, edges torn. Notes scribbled in pencil. She sets it on the piano, smooths it with both hands, and looks at her father. Raymond sighs. "Of course, that one." Elena approaches slowly. The title reads, "For Margaret Unfinished." "Your wife?" He nods. "I wrote it for her. Back when I thought love and time waited for permission. Planned to play it on our 20th anniversary. She was gone 3 days before it." He swallows hard, voice lowering. "It's been sitting there ever since. Sometimes Sophie hums pieces of it like she knows what I couldn't finish." Elena's gaze traces the faint graphite lines, the incomplete measure hanging like a breath that never landed. "It's beautiful." He shrugs. "It's cowardice on paper. Cowardice I could never bring myself to play it. If I did, it would mean admitting she's gone for good." The kettle clicks off behind them, a soft surrender. Elena thinks he's been living in silence the way I lived in noise, both afraid of what sound might set free. "May I?" she asks, gesturing toward the piano. He stiffens. "You don't have to." "I want to." He hesitates, then nods once. "Go ahead, but don't expect applause." She sits. The bench creaks in protest. The paper trembles slightly under her breath as she reads the melody. Simple. Pure. A left-hand pattern like footsteps in wet sand, right hand lifting into a fragile light. Her fingers find the keys. The first note is hesitant like a stranger knocking on a door, then another, and another. The melody begins to breathe. Raymond stands behind her hands, folded, his face unreadable. Sophie edges closer, sliding down to sit beside the bench, chin on her knees. The room fills with something between sound and memory. The notes wander, pause, pick themselves up again. Halfway through, the score ends an unfinished bar, an empty staff. Elena doesn't stop. She listens to the room, to her pulse, to whatever thread his music was trying to find, and she continues it. Gently, respectfully. Not to complete it, but to let it speak. Her variation bends slightly minor, then back to major, circling like breath returning after a sob. When the last chord resolves, it's softer than silence. No one moves. Raymond's eyes glisten, but his voice when it comes is a rasp. "That wasn't how I wrote it." "I know," she says. "It's how I heard it." He looks at the piano, at her hands still resting there. "You changed it." "I think you meant to," she says. "You just weren't ready." The clock ticks once. A drip from the faucet answers. Sophie, still silent, reaches up and presses one note, G, then nods, satisfied. Raymond chuckles softly, a breath turning into laughter. She approves. Elena smiles. She has good taste. He sits in the chair opposite her, elbows on knees, voice quieter now. You ever wonder why it's so hard to forgive yourself for surviving? All the time, she says. Me too. The rain deepens outside, each drop tapping the window like it's trying to keep time. He looks at her. Why'd you really quit? She exhales. Because I couldn't keep pretending I was saving anyone. Every decision I made was about fear of losing control, of being seen. You made me realize I'd built an empire out of avoidance. Raymond's eyes soften. So, what now? I don't know yet. She glances toward Sophie, but maybe the answer's smaller than I thought. He leans back, the chair creaking. You ever play in public? Not since I was 20. Then maybe you should. Play something that's not for selling or saving. She looks down at the keys again, tracing the grain in the ivory. Maybe we could play this one. Together. He hesitates, then sits beside her. Their shoulders nearly touch. The air between them feels charged, not romantic exactly, but human, fragile, shared. He plays the left hand this time, steady, sure. She joins with the right. The melody unfolds, no longer unfinished. Sophie hums along, off-key but perfect. When the final chord fades, Raymond exhales, long and uneven. Haven't touched that piano since she died. And now he looks at his daughter. Now, maybe I can. Elena stands, slipping her coat on. Thank you for letting me be part of it. He smiles, faint but real. You didn't fix anything, Elena. You just reminded the room it could still breathe. She laughs softly. I'll take that. As she reaches the door, he adds, You never answered my question. She pauses. Which one? Coffee, he says. You offered. Her smile widens. When I'm not a CEO anymore, remember? He nods. Guess that means I owe you a cup. She steps out into the hall. The door closes gently behind her, leaving a sliver of music still humming in her ears. Elena thinks maybe healing isn't grand gestures. Maybe it's just unfinished songs that someone finally dares to play. The elevator hums with that sterile, soulless corporate tune, a white noise hum that used to soothe her. Not anymore. The numbers on the digital panel blink down, floor by floor, until she reaches the top. Conference room 5A. Glass walls, same leather chairs, same clock that never quite ticks in rhythm with the world outside. Elena thinks one last meeting. Then silence. Her heels click softly on the tile, echoing just enough to sound deliberate. The air smells faintly of disinfectant and tension. The executives are already seated, Whitaker, Anders, Malik, all in the same power suits that could bury a person without digging a grave. When she enters the room, stiffens. Whitaker doesn't smile. Elena. Madam Chair. Please have a seat. I won't be long, Elena says, setting a single folded speech on the table. I just came to tell you this in person. The men exchange glances. Anders clears his throat. If this is about your resignation, legal already drafted, it's not a resignation. Her tone is calm, measured. It's a statement. Malik leans back, skeptical. Is this being recorded? She shakes her head. No, but it will be remembered. A pause. Even the clock seems to hold its breath. Elena thinks, don't flinch. Just tell the truth and let it echo. She unfolds the paper but doesn't read it. Her eyes lift instead, finding their faces one by one. For 15 years, I believed success was about endurance, about staying in the room longest, talking loudest, signing fastest. I believed compassion was a liability, and that efficiency excused cruelty. I told myself every cut, every layoff, every silence served a purpose. Her voice stays low but firm. It didn't. Whitaker shifts slightly. Elena. I know what you're going to say, she interrupts gently. That business isn't personal. But that's the lie we built this tower on, isn't it? That if we turn pain into metrics, it stops being pain. Anders sighs. You're making this theatrical. Maybe it should be, she says. People deserve to feel something when we take their lives apart. The room holds the words like something flammable. Elena thinks they'll call it unprofessional. Let them. I'm done performing. Whitaker folds her hands, expression unreadable. You're not here to sign, then. No, Elena says. I'm here to stop pretending I'm proud of what I built. Her voice softens. I once promised myself I'd be someone my mother could recognize. Lately, I couldn't even recognize myself. Silence. Then Malik, his voice sharp, almost pleading, Elena think. If you walk out now, you lose everything. She nods. Maybe that's the point. She looks at the speech in her hand, crumples it slightly, then lets it rest on the polished wood. You'll replace me before noon. You'll call it a strategic transition. You'll write your memos. But none of that matters anymore, because I realized something success isn't measured by who climbs higher. It's by who chooses not to step on anyone else to stay there. Whitaker's jaw tightens. You're making a mistake. Elena smiles, calm, almost kind. Maybe, but at least it's mine. She reaches for her badge, unclips it, and sets it on the table. The sound it makes, a small clack, feels heavier than it should. Elena thinks that's the sound of an ending I can live with. Good luck, she says simply, and turns for the door. But Whitaker's voice stops her. Elena. She pauses. Whitaker's tone is quieter now, less iron. You'll regret this. Elena glances back over her shoulder. I already did. For years. That's why I'm leaving before it happens again. She opens the door. The hallway air hits her cool, alive, smelling faintly of rain that's finally stopped. Somewhere below the building hums with the rhythm of hundreds of lives that won't notice she's gone. Kira stands by the elevators, eyes wide. You did it. I did. Are you okay? Elena exhales, the answer caught between laughter and relief. Ask me tomorrow. They share a look that needs no translation. Elena presses the button. The elevator doors slide open with a soft sigh. She steps in. Through the glass wall of the lobby below, the city glimmers wet pavement reflections of headlights like small comets burning toward morning. Elena thinks, so this is what freedom sounds like. Not applause, not approval, just quiet. When she steps out onto the street, the air smells different. Cleaner, somehow. The storms wash the city raw. She walks without knowing exactly where she's going. Her phone buzzes, but she doesn't look. She already knows what's waiting: voicemails from Whitaker, from PR, from lawyers drafting statements. None of them matter. A passing cab splashes water at the curb. She doesn't flinch. She just keeps walking. Across the street, a small cafe glows warm through rain-streaked glass. Inside, mismatched mugs, chipped tables, the kind of place where time slows down. She hesitates at the door, watching through the window. Inside, a man wipes a table, humming a tune she recognizes instantly. The unfinished melody. Raymond. Elena thinks, maybe coincidence, maybe fate. I don't care which anymore. She doesn't go in, just stands there for a moment, letting the hum find her through the glass. She reaches into her pocket, finds the crumpled index card in her mother's handwriting. When you forget the melody, start with the rhythm of your breathing. She presses it to her chest. Her heartbeat answers. Then she walks away, not running, not escaping, just walking. No briefcase, no badge, no destination. Only the sound of her own footsteps matching the faint ticking of the city around her, the same rhythm she used to mistake for a countdown. Elena thinks it was never a countdown. It was an invitation. Behind her, the cafe door opens. A faint bell rings and a man's voice calls out, unsure but hopeful, Elena. She stops. For half a second, her breath catches. Then, without turning, she smiles. And keeps walking. The community music school breathes in drafts and dust and hope. Floorboards complain in low vowels. Radiators tap like impatient metronomes. Somewhere behind the curtain, a violin warms up with a thin, brave line. A child coughs. Someone unwraps a cough drop with a crinkle that seems louder than it should be. Elena thinks not a gala, not a launch, no cameras, just breath and wood and rustling paper. The hallway smells of old varnish and wool coats damp from a day-long drizzle. She runs a fingertip along the door jamb, grit, then smooth. The little auditorium holds maybe 100 chairs, none of them matching. A piano sits stage left, its bench patched with tape that sighs when you sit. Raymond stands in the wings, sleeves rolled, knuckles rubbed raw from work that never ends. He's quieter than usual, which is saying something. Sophie sits on the floor, cross-legged hands hovering over an invisible keyboard she's mapped onto her knees. Her lips move without sound, counting maybe, or talking to a melody only she can see. "Crowds bigger than I expected," Raymond murmurs. "It's the flyers," Elena says. "Also, the promise of free cookies." "Ah," he nods solemnly. "Culture and carbohydrates." A volunteer peeks through the curtain. 5 minutes. The lobby noise swells, then settles. Programs whisper. A wheelchair motor hums. Someone's perfume leaves a brief trail of lilac that doesn't belong to this century. Elena feels the tug of 1,000 meetings and none of their weight. Elena thinks we planned nothing fancy. Just a room, a piano, and people who needed a reason to show up. Tonight's cast 3 kids who script their days down to the minute and get lost without a rhythm to hold. An ex-dock worker with hands like anchors who sing when he touches a harmonica. A widow who says she forgot words but still remembers every note she ever loved. The forgotten, the overlooked, the ones airports swallow whole without a boarding pass. Raymond clears his throat. "You sure about this order?" "Let them go first," Elena says. "We'll end." End. His mouth tilts. Or begin. She half laughs, then checks the card in her pocket. "When you forget the melody, start with the rhythm of your breathing." She doesn't need to read it anymore. The ink lives in her chest. The house lights dim with a soft thunk. The school's director, a woman with a voice like a late-night radio host, steps out. "Welcome," she says. "We're not here to audition or to impress. We're here to listen." A ripple of gentle applause. A walker bumps a chair. Someone whispers, "You've got it, sweetheart," before the first child even stands. The program unspools like a shy parade. A boy plays a single note pattern on a glockenspiel perfect in its honesty. 2 teenage sisters share an old folk tune and drop into giggles halfway through, then finish anyway to cheers that feel like a blanket. The ex-dock worker bends a harmonica line so blue the room remembers rain in August. When it's Sophie's turn, she walks to the piano with a calm that looks like silence but might be focus sharpened to a point. Elena meets her at the bench. Together she asks. Sophie nods without looking up. Her breathing is audible, measured, exact. She places her hands and waits. That wait is the first note. They begin with the sonatina not to prove to arrive. Elena plays the left hand this time, letting Sophie lift the melody. The piano answers in old wood and felted hammers. The bench complains. The room leans forward. When they miss, they keep going. When they land, they don't stare at it, just move on. Elena thinks we're not fixing anything. We're making a place for it. At the cadence, Sophie stops. Her finger hovers over G, then chooses silence instead. The decision is clean. She slides off the bench. Bose barely returns to the floor next to her puzzle of air. Applause bubbles up, warm, imperfect, exactly right. Elena's eyes burn in a way that doesn't threaten to break her. Raymond's hands are tight fists on his forearms. When he unclenches, a breath leaves him like he's been holding one since the hospital. The director nods to Elena. And to close something new that isn't quite new at all. He doesn't move until she speaks. "Raymond." She pats the bench. Left hand. He hesitates, jaw-working eyes on the keys like they're water he isn't sure will hold. Then he sits. The bench groans under the redistribution of history. Elena places the worn paper on the stand. The pencil title is faint but legible. The Clock in the Terminal. Underneath, in smaller letters for Margaret, unfinished. A murmur moves through the room like a small wind. Raymond inhales. His first note is a tremor. His second is a choice. They play. Left hand a slow tread like footsteps that know where they're going without needing to hurry. Right hand a phrase that lifts and leans into shadow, then finds its way home by ear and heart rather than map. Between them a pulse that isn't metronome or wall clock, but the human kind, fallible, forgiving. On the third phrase, Elena hears it happen, the audience breathing together. The wheelchair motor rests. The cough drops stop crinkling. Even the radiators wait their turn to tick. Raymond's sound thickens, not volume weight. The room absorbs regret and gives back truth. When the original bars run out, he doesn't freeze. He watches Elena's right hand and follows. The melody bends minor and doesn't apologize. It remembers a hospital hallway and an anniversary date that moved itself. It remembers a photograph that learned to survive alone. Halfway through, Elena steps out of the way, literally. She lifts her hands, lets him cross over, gives him the top line as if passing a fragile object to the only person who can carry it. His fingers are clumsy for 2 notes, sure for 4, then suddenly he's not thinking. He's telling. It isn't perfect. It is alive. A sound breaks at the back, someone crying the way you do when you didn't mean to. Sophie hums off-key, which suits the chord they need. They near the end. There is no end on the page. Elena isn't sure where to land. Raymond chooses for them. He delays the resolution by a breath that feels like a year, then lets the chord settle, not on triumph, but on enough. The decay blooms and thins. The piano keeps speaking after they stop. Silence holds. Then the room stands all at once, not for celebrity, for relief. The applause is a weather system, warm fronts, pockets of wind, a low thunder of feet and cane tips. Raymond's shoulders shake once very slightly. He doesn't bow. He sits there with his hands flat on his knees like a man steadying himself on a boat that isn't moving anymore. He turns to Elena. "Thank you," he says, gravel softening, "for changing what I couldn't." She shakes her head. "You finished it." He huffs a breath. "With help." Sophie climbs back onto the bench between them and presses middle C. Just once. It rings clean. She looks up at her father. Again, she whispers the first word she said all night. Raymond nods. Again. The director leans in from the wings. "Encore," she whispers. Elena looks to Raymond. He looks to the room. He nods. They begin the theme, once more lighter now, like walking the same route after the rain stops. The audience claps time for 4 measures, then lets the music take it back. When they close this time, Sophie adds a high note that wasn't there before. It shouldn't work. It does. After the lobby becomes a small storm of voices. Paper cups scrape against plastic tables. Someone says, "I haven't felt anything in months." Someone else says, "My late husband loved Clementi," and presses Elena's hand too long to count as polite. A man with a teacher's lanyard asks, "Would you two consider a weekly thing? Community nights?" Pays honest. Raymond glances at Elena. His voice is low. What do you think Elena thinks do not answer with a title? Answer with a pulse. Her phone buzzes. A text banner pushes up from the bottom of the screen before she can stop it. Airline, notice your rebooked flight to Tokyo departs tomorrow, 5:38 a.m. Gate C13. The letters look like an old life clearing its throat. Raymond notices the freeze in her face. Somewhere to be. She turns the phone face down. The plastic makes a dull sound on the table. I do. Where she listens to the room, to the piano still cooling, to Sophie tapping out a private epilogue on the edge of the stage. Here she says, then softer, as if telling the truth to the part of her that doubts, "If you'll have me." Raymond studies her the way you study a chord you're not sure you can reach. "We'll talk after we pack up," he says. "There's a lot of folding chairs between us and tomorrow." He lifts the fallboard. It closes with a padded sigh. The radiators resume their tapping. Someone laughs in the hallway. The world returns to its ordinary noises. Elena puts the airline phone beneath the index card in her pocket paper on plastic old promise atop old itinerary. The two feel the same thickness for a moment. Then the card warms. From outside, as if on cue, a siren climbs and fades. In the quiet, it leaves the school's wall clock ticks once decisive. Elena thinks final boarding call. Her phone buzzes again, insistent. She doesn't look. The director waves them over to talk dates and keys. Sophie tugs Elena's sleeve and points at the bench like a question. Elena smiles. Again she asks. Sophie nods. They sit. And in the doorway, unnoticed by most, a figure lingers, listening, someone from Elena's former life, perhaps, or only a shadow that sounds a lot like it. The door hinge whispers open another inch. Morning unfurls softly over the suburbs, pale gold and patient. Dew hums on every blade of grass, the world smelling faintly of wet earth and new beginnings. Somewhere far away, a plane climbs through the clouds, but the sound reaches this quiet street only as a distant sigh. Elena thinks that sound used to mean escape. Now it just sounds like someone else's story. The small house on Brookview Lane is alive in a different rhythm. The kitchen window is fogged from the kettle. Raymond is outside in the garden, sleeves rolled, coaxing the first stubborn shoots of basil through the soil. Sophie hums somewhere inside one of her own wordless melodies, rising and falling like breath. Elena pours tea, 2 cups. The kettle clicks off. The silence that follows isn't empty. It's full of floorboard creaks of sunlight shifting across wood of peace that doesn't need to announce itself. Elena thinks 1 year. 1 whole year since I missed that flight. She sets the cups on the small table by the window where the morning light paints the world in amber. On the shelf nearby sits the framed ticket, Flight 218 to Tokyo Gate C-13, still uncut, preserved like a relic of another life. Raymond steps in, wiping his hands on a towel. They're saying we might get rain again tonight. Good for the garden, she says. Bad for my joints. He chuckles, the sound deep and warm. But I'll take it. He takes the cup she offers, blowing gently on the steam. His movements are slower now, but unhurried, like every gesture has learned the grace of enough. Sophie pads in from the other room, her piano notebook hugged against her chest. She points to the page. A new song. What's it called? Elena asks. The girl thinks for a moment, then writes it carefully at the top of the page. Home. Elena smiles. Perfect. They follow Sophie to the piano. It's the same old upright now, standing proudly by the window, its keys slightly yellowed, but loved. Raymond sits first, his hand brushing the fallboard. She's in tune, mostly, he says. Good enough, Elena replies, taking the seat beside him. Sophie climbs up next, wedging herself between them with practiced ease. For a moment, no one speaks. Then Sophie presses the first note, G. Raymond joins with the low harmony. Elena fills the middle. The room fills with sound familiar, fragile, free. Elena thinks it doesn't matter if we're perfect. We're present. The melody drifts through the open window, out to where the breeze carries it across fences and flower beds to neighbors trimming hedges and mail carriers on their routes. It sounds like laughter in another language. When the last chord fades, Raymond leans back, eyes half closed. You ever think how much can change in a year? Elena nods. Sometimes I can't believe it's still the same world. It isn't, he says simply. She looks at him, the man who once spoke to her in riddles and silence, who now teaches her the art of stillness by living it. And she realizes she's no longer waiting for something to begin. It already has. Sophie slides off the bench, runs to the garden door and swings it open. The breeze rushes in, carrying the sound of birds and the faint rhythmic tick, tick from the old wall clock Raymond hung above the doorway. He caught it from an airport sale months ago. Just a clock, he'd said, but Elena knows better. She turns toward it, now the second hand moving steady and kind, keeping time for no one in particular. Elena thinks it's not counting down anymore. It's just keeping us company. She moves to the bookshelf, running a hand along the spines, music books, Raymond's old maintenance manuals, a few paperbacks, and that glass frame holding the untouched boarding pass. The paper has aged. The ink softened. She picks it up gently. Raymond watches her. Still keeping it. Maybe forever, she says, smiling. It reminds me who I almost was. He raises an eyebrow. Regrets none, she says. That flight wasn't mine to take. He nods, satisfied. Outside, Sophie laughs, pure spontaneous, as if joy itself just found her. The sound spills into the room like light through an open door. Elena sets the ticket back on the shelf beside a new frame, a photograph of the three of them on stage at the community concert, Raymond's hands on the keys. Sophie mid-laugh, Elena leaning toward the mic. The caption, scribbled in pen, the clock in the terminal first performance. The kettle hums again, restarting its quiet work. Raymond's plants shiver in the wind. Somewhere, a church bell marks the hour, joining the ticking clock in an accidental duet. Elena closes her eyes. The world smells of mint and tea, of music and wet soil. She breathes it in, steady, unguarded. Elena thinks, for years, I chased time. Now it chases no one. And that's enough. She hears Raymond's voice soft behind her. You look like you're exactly where you belong. She opens her eyes, meeting his. I am. He smiles, slow and sure. Sophie's laughter drifts in again, followed by the faint plunk of a piano key pressed by a child's wandering hand. The sound settles between them, light, human, alive. Elena lifts her cup of tea, the porcelain warm against her palms. She watches the steam rise and curl into the sunlight. Elena thinks maybe healing isn't a destination. Maybe it's the quiet between two notes when you finally stop trying to catch the next one. She glances once more at the clock. The second hand moves, steady, patient, each click a small heartbeat of the life she chose to keep. And when she exhales, it isn't with regret. It's with peace. The final sound is the laugh that leaves her lips soft, surprised, utterly alive, folding into the music of a home, finally in tune with itself. You know, sometimes, the flight we miss isn't a mistake. It's mercy. A quiet chance life gives us to stop running long enough to hear what our heart has been trying to say all along. Elena's story reminds us that healing doesn't come from running faster or flying farther. It comes from slowing down, from listening to the silence between the ticking seconds and daring to fill it with something honest. Maybe you've had your own missed flight moment, that one decision, that one turn, that one stranger's words that changed everything. If you have, or if you've seen someone find their way back to themselves, I'd love to hear your story. Share it below in the comments, because your story might be the one that helps someone else find theirs. And tell me, where are you watching from tonight? What place in the world are you hearing this story from? Let's make this little corner of the internet feel a bit more like a terminal where every soul is still learning how to arrive. If you felt something, if this story spoke to a quiet part of you, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. It's how you keep this circle of stories alive, stories of kindness, redemption, and second chances. Thank you, truly, for staying till the end, for giving your time, your heart, and your ears to the clock in the terminal. Until the next story, breathe gently, listen deeply, and remember, not every journey needs wings. Some just need time.